Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Uncanny Treks. Tonight we are covering the fourth episode of X-Men 97, Season 2, Rise of Apocalypse Part 2. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. Matt, how you doing this evening?
Doing well, Bob. Apocalypse has made his mark on the X-Men with this season 2 of X-Men 97, man. I knew Apocalypse was coming. I knew he was on the horizon. We saw it, and he is here.
We saw him in the first episode.
Yeah, but he's huge here, Bob. He's huge. Huge.
He does get big. He grows.
We get the Apocalypse we're used to seeing. And what I find so fascinating, too, this is almost a bit of an aside, is that they produce X-Men 97 action figures. And one of the bigger figures they've produced this time around is Apocalypse. And when they made him gigantic, and he's $100. Not buying that.
Oh, wow. For the average price of an X-Men 97 figure.
$28. Still crazy, but
That sounds high, but within reason of inflation. But $100, that's more than 3 times as much.
it's 3 times as big. Bob. Which is what I'm trying to say is we get to see big Apocalypse here.
Is he as big as the Sentinel that they used to sell with the X-Men years in the 90s?
They put out an X-Men 97 Sentinel. It's pretty big. That's accurate to the size. Yes, this Apocalypse is roughly double the size of the action figures. Not as big as that Sentinel, probably, but beefy.
The important question, Matt, can you fit an X-Men 97 figure inside the reissued Sentinel's chest?
Absolutely not, which ticked me off. I was really annoyed at the way the Sentinel is portrayed in the new action figures because it's just like on the show. I want the made-up stuff they used to let our Sentinels do, where you can push them in the knees and their feet shoot out. Remember that?
Yeah, that was awesome.
He shot
I
his
thought
fist
that was
off.
made up or just a way to represent battle damage.
It was a Sentinel with knobs on its knees. It's pretty funny.
Matt, speaking of the size of things, I did want to ask you, do you Apocalypse has a bigger ego or Xavier has a bigger ego?
God, that's a hard question. At least Apocalypse has the past of all the abuse that Xavier really didn't experience.
Apparently Kane was pretty hard on him and his stepfather was pretty hard on him. But yeah, I see
Oh
what you're
yeah,
saying.
okay, but we watched Apocalypse be a slave, Bob, and sleep in the rain. He had it rougher than getting bullied by his big brother.
Being a slave in ancient Egypt is rougher than growing up privileged in New York State.
And you had a mansion too, Bob, in your name, so you're doing okay.
That's fair. I asked because there's this whole awkward thing of Xavier explaining the X-Men to Apocalypse early in this episode, and it alludes to the fact that they're named after him, and Apocalypse doesn't question it. It was, yeah, that's because Apocalypse also has a huge ego and doesn't accept this.
He is the first X-Man.
We talked about big Apocalypse, but let's dwell on little Apocalypse. Baby Apocalypse, infant Apocalypse. Is he cute or is he creepy?
I think he's cute. When we see the younger child Apocalypse in Remender's run, that was cute too.
Matt likes a teen Apocalypse or a baby Apocalypse.
Before he gets full size, he's a cute dude.
Another point about Apocalypse's slave career in this, Matt, did you notice those statues Apocalypse was raising in the episode?
Yeah, they're really big, but they look like some god or deity.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be Khonshu, the god of the moon, and that's Moon Knight's patron deity. And so, yeah, I assume that's supposed to be an occasional Moon Knight reference. Not that I think we're actually going to see Moon Knight in the show or anything, right? But just a nice little nod to Moon Knight.
Yeah, we'll never see Moon Knight in live action.
We certainly never did in that show that bore his name. He was hardly in it.
That's true. That was awful.
It was very bad. So one other question about the extended Marvel universe here. With the constellation that's appearing to first Logos in part 1 and then Apocalypse in part 2 that Xavier's seeing in their minds, do you think that's some sort of Eternals or Celestial thing?
I think they're going somewhere in that direction. I really do think they're trying to connect this universe into let it act as one of the multiverses for everything going on in the MCU.
I was surprised we were going deep on potentially and celestial lore, and then this is jumping ahead way to the end, right? But we're also going into external lore. Lore is different than eternal lore.
When they brought up the Eternals, I was okay. They're trying to maybe revamp that whole approach they took with the film piece and try to bring it into this way through the cartoon, which it seems to be doing okay. There's been hints throughout, I feel.
It's funny, too, because we just got done reading that Spider-Man 94 comic, which also backdoors some Eternal stuff into the Marvel universe from last year. So it's funny that's so much on the minds of people working in this universe. Another lore connection, Matt, did you get Bible vibes off the X-Men and the Apocalypse? You're traveling through the desert to follow a star, like they're going to visit the baby Apocalypse.
That's what they're going for. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be
Yeah,
somewhat
yeah.
biblical in reference. He's the first
They're gonna
X-Men.
bring the baby apocalypse gifts of Frankenstein or not Frankenstein, frankincense and myrrh and gold.
Yeah. And then, of course, Bob, we do meet Ramatut again.
Do you meet Ramatud again? And did you catch who was voicing him? Or like,
Yes, Bob, it was Q.
yeah, it was cute. It was John Delancey, which I think we noticed last episode, but I don't think we brought up on the episode.
I was too excited about Michael Dorn
Oh.
playing a character and Gates McFadden playing Mother Scully.
Then we also get Ramatut has an ancient Egyptian cerebro, which was fun.
Bob, speaking of something you mentioned last week that I shot down, but apparently you were right. What do we learn about Ramatut?
What do we learn about Ramatut?
Bob, that he is actually Kang.
You shot that down last time?
I say I don't think they're going in that direction because they already used Kang in the MCU. I'm glad they've actually acknowledged Kang, and so maybe we can go in that direction a little bit and maybe pick up some of those lost stories, especially if we can see Kang in multiple versions and multiple people, multiple voices.
They mentioned multiple names for Kang. They mentioned Ramatut, Kang, Nathaniel, which is Kang's true identity, which is eventually revealed as he's Nathaniel Richards, which we saw a little bit when we were covering the Hickman run back when. But then they also mentioned the name Victor. And my first thought was that was a Doctor Doom reference because it's something that comes up in the lore in the comics sometimes that Kang is possibly a descendant of Doctor Doom, although that did somewhat get displaced by the revelation that Kang is Nathaniel Richards, although it's not necessarily totally ruled out that he might be Nathaniel Richards and still a descendant of Doctor Doom in some way. But then I was looking around to make sure because I couldn't fully remember what the Kang Doom relationship was and if they'd even gone stronger. But there is an alternate version of Kang who shows up, I think, in the 90s. Yet another version of Kang, not Ramatut, not Kang, not Nathaniel Richards, who's called Victor Timely. So that the name Victor could be a reference to Victor Timely, or it could be a reference to Doctor Doom, or both.
But what I find so fascinating too is that Ramatut, of course, was first brought to us in the Fantastic Four comics via Doctor Doom's time travel machine.
I think you maybe think of Ramatut as more separate from Kang because you encountered him in that Fantastic Four comic and in the Al Ewing Mighty Avengers comic. And so we didn't get to the 60s Avengers until much later where you have the reveal that Kang is Ramatut and vice versa.
I didn't really understand Ramatut or Kang until that Al Ewing comic that we did cover. Because he basically takes them all the way to the end of time or something, and they're all there. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. There's a bunch of Kangs. I didn't watch that third Ant-Man movie, which I think you said was awful anyway, so I'm glad I didn't.
I did watch it, but I do not remember anything about how they handle Kang in it.
After that film, Kang pretty much vanished after his appearances in Loki.
Oh, yeah, I haven't watched Loki.
I was left, okay, what's the deal with this character? And then after reading the Al Ewing stuff, okay, I got a better understanding of what he is.
Matt, we have a different voice actor doing a young Apocalypse voice, or maybe I should call him Insaban Noor's voice, just to be clear. But young actor doing Insaban Noor's voice. Then we have a voice actor come in and give a pretty credible version of the original X-Men 92 Apocalypse's voice. And I didn't know if you knew this, but it absolutely blew me away when I was looking up to see if it was the same guy who did the X-Men 92 voice or if it was somebody else. It's the actor who is doing Xavier for the show as well is doing the full-on transformed Apocalypse voice.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I marked out when I did hear that voice because we had been over it so many times in our coverage of X-Men, and we always used to make fun of it. That and the Master Mold voice. So, yeah, here I was, hey, he's definitely back. And then the sound of those pistons, man, when Apocalypse does finally show up, the sounds of the pistons moving in his arms, ugh. It sets off something in my brain that reminded me of the old school.
Speaking of Apocalypse and nostalgia and action figures, Matt, when we have Apocalypse do his drill hand and his shield hand, how did that go for you? Did that really scratch the nostalgia itch for you?
Oh, totally, Bob. Because you remember the old school, the first Apocalypse action figure, he would grow in size, but it was lame because his legs would extend.
He had some sort of missile launcher that looked like a pin, if I remember
correctly. It kind of had a drill bit on the end of it, so it sort of was a drill.
More of a mechanical pencil.
A few waves later, they released a beefier Apocalypse who looked more like the one in the comics, just a big dude, muscular. I don't remember if he had the drill hand. However, the action figure I just mentioned that X-Men 97 is delivered, they got this exact same look with the drill and the shield. So you do get that with the figure.
I remember if that's something he does in the cartoon, the X-Men 92 cartoon or not.
I'm pretty sure it does the drill at some point.
Okay, the shield looks really familiar, but I don't know. I don't know if I saw it there or if I saw it in a comic at some point. Matt, we get to the big climax of this episode, and so I have to ask you the comparative question. We saw the very extraordinary death of Gambit last season, and then we get Apocalypse killing Magneto this season. Which do you think's the better death, Gambit or Magneto?
Gambit. Oh, 100%.
What?
Gambit, I'm crying at the TV, Bob. Magneto will be back. I already thought he was dead. The dude dies too often. Get over it. He'll be back. He'll be back with longer hair. He'll be back with a ponytail. He'll be back with a weird colored suit. He'll be back with a wheelchair. He'll always come back. Gambit, though, it's more rare for him to die. When he dies, there's more to it. And he died the way he sacrificed himself in the last season versus what Magneto does here. Magneto also caused the problem.
He caused the problem, although then he sacrificed himself to solve it, and then Apocalypse killed him as the capper. Whereas it is maybe a little more emotionally moving when Gambit getting killed is solving the problem, as opposed to Magneto is killed after solving the problem.
I've seen him and Charles pal cry at each other so many times now. Oh, why did you do this? Oh, why are we blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they're lovers. I get it.
The other thing to ask here is I think you and I are both 100% assuming that Gambit is going to be back as Apocalypse's Horseman of Death this season, right?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Do you think Magneto comes back this season, or do you think it waits till at least next season?
We wait.
That's where I'm at too. Maybe he'll come back in the 9th or 10th episode and we'll be somewhat surprised, but I would assume, yeah, he's gone until season 3, I would assume.
Chances are he may come back as Zorn, just fair warning.
Oh, that makes sense. Is it Zorn in the trailer or something?
No, I just made that up off the top of my head.
Yes.
I could see them doing that and having him influenced by something.
Especially with the way they've gestured to the Morrison run. They're not fully doing the Morrison run, but they're gesturing to it. It would make sense to reimagine Magneto as Zorn. Yeah, I can see that. Matt, I did want to ask, not which makes you sadder, but who do you think is sadder on the death of their dead lover? Is it Rogue or is it Xavier?
I would say that it's Rogue because technically she was in love with Magneto as well. And then
yeah, maybe you can give it to Rogue because she loses both parts of her romantic triangle, Gambit and Magneto. But if you set that part aside, if you purely go on Rogue's grief for her dead lover, Gambit, versus Xavier's grief for his dead lover, Magneto, who do you think is more melancholic about the situation?
I'd go with Rogue, but Xavier was way overboard to some degree. Because even Xavier knows he's coming back.
It's funny that I think for both of us, maybe the effect of Magneto's death is somewhat lessened because it's mostly focused on its effect on Xavier, and we both really like Magneto, but we both really don't like Xavier.
Exactly.
Okay, I have another question for you that I do not remember from our coverage of X-Men 92. So we have a little post-credit scene here where Captain America and Black Widow show up and talk to Wolverine. Did Black Widow appear in X-Men 92? I thought the answer was no, but then I read an article that said she showed up in the background of an alternate future in an Apocalypse episode, but I think that was fake news, but I don't know what your thoughts. I checked on Wikipedia and the Marvel Animated Wiki, and there's nothing about her in any of the 90s Marvel Universe. You might think she might have showed up in 94 or Avengers 99.
One Man's Worth Part 1. Apparently,
okay, so
there's an image of her.
That, allegedly.
No speaking part. And it's her only animated appearance.
So she actually did show up, but this is the first time we're seeing her in the main timeline of the Marvel Animated Universe, I suppose.
I was glad with the costume choice they went with.
Is a time travel episode.
Yeah, it had to do with Age of Apocalypse.
Gray one instead of the black leather is the more one you associate with her.
They went with a good design. What direction are they going with in this, Bob? Wolverine's going to go and invade Weapon X and learn about himself. So we're getting more Weapon X stuff.
Yeah, and it seems like he's probably going to team up with Maverick and maybe somebody else from Weapon X too. Maybe Deadpool, maybe somebody else.
Sabretooth will probably show up at some point as well.
Maverick and Deadpool are the only Weapon X alums that are coming to mind immediately.
They wouldn't bring in Phantom X, would they, Bob?
I don't think they would bring Phantom X in for a flashback Wolverine episode, if that makes sense. I think you handle Phantom X in present stories. He shows up and he's a mystery to Wolverine and a mystery to the viewer. I don't think you do it where he shows up and Wolverine has a history with him, but I could be betting totally. The original movie title that they're referencing is Sex Lies and Videotapes from the 80s, and then I think animated episode title from X-Men 92 is Weapon X Lies and Videotape.
It's Weapon X Lies and DVDs, yes. That'll be next week's episode is the title.
Matt, for this episode, do we agree, and if we don't agree, it's fine, but do we agree that Magneto is character number one and Apocalypse is character number two for this episode?
Oh, yes, definitely. After that, I got to give it to Rogue. And mainly because she described a very good plot point, and that if Magneto alters the past the way he did, there's a possibility that Gambit survives in the future. Which, I'm okay, this explains how we're going to make sure a lot of those characters that we thought were dead actually survived.
Which was interesting because all the characters and the viewer understand it as she's thinking about Gambit, but I think she frames it as all of the Genosha mutants, right? You're going to go Rogue. I'm going to go Bishop. I really noticed the voice actor for Bishop this episode. I don't think I really noticed the voice actor for Bishop earlier this season or last season. I thought he did some great work this episode. And I also really enjoyed the antagonism that Bishop had with both Magneto and Apocalypse over the course of the episode. So Bishop made sense for me to be my number 3 character for this episode.
Bishop's great. All right, Bob. So next episode, it's going to be Wolverine centered, so get ready for it.
I'm ready for it. I know they have to do Wolverine episodes from time to time, but I've appreciated how season 1 and season 2 so far have been pretty light on Wolverine content. And I have faith that they're going to keep that going. But yeah, you still got to do a Wolverine Spotlight episode occasionally, right?
Of course.
All right, this has been Uncanny Treks covers episode 4 of X-Men 97 season 2. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.